Have you ever seen three little girls standing in the snow, trying to sell their blind mother's last handmade blanket? What if that blanket carried a secret from the past? A secret that only one man in the entire town could recognize. Tonight's story is about three sisters, a blind mother, and a wealthy stranger whose life was about to change forever. Before we begin, tell us where you're listening from. And if you enjoy emotional stories like this one, don't forget to subscribe to Bruno Now. Let's begin. Snow drifted gently through the streets of Ashford. Christmas was only a few days away. The town was glowing with colorful lights. Families hurried from shop to shop, carrying gifts and laughing together. Warm music floated through the cold evening air. It was the happiest time of the year for most people, but not for Lily, Chloe, and Sophie. The three sisters stood quietly on a snowy sidewalk near the town square. They were only 7 years old, identical triplets. The girls wore old winter coats that were far too thin for the freezing weather. Their hands were red from the cold. Boots were worn, but none of them complained, because they knew why they were. There, spread carefully across a small folding table, was a beautiful handmade blanket. It wasn't large. It wasn't expensive, but it had been made with love. Every stitch had been sewn by their mother. Today, they were trying to sell it. Lily looked down the street hopefully. Do you think someone will buy it? Chloe shrugged. I don't know. Sophie forced a smile. They have to. The girls fell silent. A cold wind swept through the square. Snowflakes danced around them. People walked past. Some glanced at the blanket. Most didn't stop. Hours passed. Nobody bought it. Across town, James Carter was leaving a business meeting. At 42 years old, he was one of the wealthiest men in Ashford. His company owned hotels, office buildings, and shopping centers throughout the region. Success had brought him everything money could buy: a large house, luxury cars, private vacations. Yet none of those things had made him happy. For years he had buried himself in work. It was easier than thinking about the past. As James crossed the town square, something caught his eye. Three little girls standing alone in the snow. He slowed his pace. Most people would have kept walking, but something felt wrong. Children shouldn't be outside alone in weather like this. Curious, James changed direction and approached them. The girls immediately straightened. Perhaps this would finally be their first customer. James looked at the blanket, then froze. For a moment, the sounds of the busy town disappeared. His eyes locked onto a specific section of the fabric. A small, embroidered symbol sewn into one corner. A tiny silver bird. His heart skipped. No. That couldn't be possible. James leaned closer. The symbol was unmistakable. He had seen it before. Many years ago. Long before he became wealthy. Long before his life changed. The same silver bird had once appeared on every blanket, scarf, and sweater made by a young woman he had known. A woman he had never forgotten. James stared at the stitching. The memories came rushing back. The girl with the warm smile. The small apartment. The dreams they once shared. Dreams that never came true. His chest tightened. Slowly, he looked up at the three sisters. Where did you get this blanket? The girls exchanged nervous glances. Lily finally answered. Our mother made it. James felt a strange chill. Your mother? She nodded. Double quotes, yes. James looked back at the blanket. His mind was racing. There had to be another explanation. Coincidences happened. People used similar designs all the time. Yet something deep inside him refused to believe it was a coincidence. "What is your mother's name?" he asked. The girls hesitated. Their mother had always warned them about strangers. Finally, Sophie spoke. "Evelyn." James felt the world stop. For several seconds he couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't think. The name hit him like a bolt of lightning. Evelyn Hart. The same Evelyn. The same woman he had spent years trying to forget. The same woman he had once loved more than anything. James stepped back slightly. His pulse quickened. After all these years, how was this possible? Meanwhile, the girls noticed the change in his expression. Chloe looked worried. "Sir?" James blinked, forcing himself back to reality. He looked at the children again. 3 identical girls, 3 little girls, standing in the snow. And suddenly a question entered his mind. A question that terrified him. How old are they? The answer came quickly. 7. The girls were 7 years old. James felt his stomach tighten. 7 years. Exactly 7 years. The same number of years since he had last seen Evelyn. No. It couldn't be. Could it? He looked away, trying to control his emotions, trying to think clearly. The girls were still watching him. Waiting. Confused. Finally, James reached into his wallet, pulled out several bills and placed them gently on the table. Far more than the blanket was worth. Lily's eyes widened. "Sir, that's too much." James shook his head. "No." His voice was quieter. "Now, it's not." The girls stared at the money. None of them had ever seen that much cash before. Sophie looked up. "Does that mean you'll buy the blanket?" James glanced down at the handmade blanket one last time, then nodded. "Yes." For a brief moment, the girls smiled. The first genuine smiles they had shown all day. But James barely noticed, because one thought kept repeating in his mind. Evelyn. After 7 years. She was here. Somewhere. In this town. And for the first time in a very long time. James needed answers. What had happened to her? Why was she blind? And why were 3 little girls standing alone in the snow, trying to sell the last thing she had made? As the evening sky darkened above Ashford, James picked up the blanket and looked toward the street. He had no idea what he was about to discover. But deep down, he knew one thing. This was only the beginning. James Carter couldn't stop thinking about the name Evelyn Hart. For 7 years, he had convinced himself that chapter of his life was over. Yet somehow, on a snowy evening just days before Christmas, her name had returned, and it had come from the mouths of 3 little girls standing in the cold. The sisters carefully gathered the money from the table. Their faces were filled with relief. For the first time all day, they didn't have to worry about going home. Empty-handed. James looked at them. Then at the darkening sky. Snow continued to fall. The temperature was dropping quickly. A question immediately came to his mind. Where are your parents? The girls exchanged nervous glances. Lily finally answered, We live with our mother. James nodded. And your father? The smiles disappeared from their faces. The sisters looked down. After a few seconds, Chloe quietly replied, We don't have one. James felt a strange ache in his chest. He didn't ask another question. Whatever the story was, it clearly wasn't simple. Instead, he smiled gently. "Have you girls eaten dinner yet?" The answer came immediately. No. James wasn't surprised. The girls had been standing outside for hours, trying to sell a blanket. Children. Their age should have been home watching Christmas movies, not working in the snow. "Come with me." The girls looked uncertain. Sophie frowned. "Our mother says we shouldn't go anywhere with strangers." For the first time, James laughed. "Your mother sounds smart." The girls smiled. James pointed toward a bakery across the square. "What if we stay right there?" Warm lights glowed through the windows. The smell of fresh bread drifted into the street. Lily looked at her sisters, then back at James. Finally, she nodded. A few minutes later, the four of them sat inside. The warmth immediately brought color back to the girls' cheeks. A waitress appeared. James ordered sandwiches. Soup, hot, chocolate, and several pastries. The girls stared at the table in disbelief when the food arrived. For a moment, none of them touched it. As if they couldn't believe it was really for them. James smiled. "Go ahead." That was all the permission they needed. Within seconds, they were eating. Not greedily. Just hungrily. As if they had learned long ago not to waste food. Watching them reminded James of his own childhood. There had been difficult years after his father abandoned them. Years when every meal mattered. Perhaps that was why he couldn't walk away from these girls. Halfway through dinner, Sophie looked up. "Thank you, mister." "You're welcome," Lily smiled. "Mum is going to be happy." James leaned forward. "Why?" "Because now we can buy medicine." His expression changed instantly. "Medicine?" The girls nodded. Chloe spoke this time. "Mom gets headaches." Bad headaches. Almost every day, James felt concern rising inside him. "What kind of medicine?" The girls shrugged. "We don't know. She never tells us. She says not to worry." James looked away for a moment. Parents often said that, especially when things were worse than they admitted. As dinner continued, the girls slowly became more comfortable around him. They talked about school. Their favorite books, Christmas, and the tiny apartment they shared with their mother. The more James listened, the more worried he became. Then Sophie accidentally revealed something. "We might have to move." The table fell silent. Lily immediately looked at her sister. "Sophie, what? You weren't supposed to say that." James frowned. "Move?" The girls remained quiet. Finally, Chloe spoke. "The landlord wants more money. Mom doesn't have enough." James felt his stomach tighten. "How long do you have?" The sisters exchanged glances. "Not long." The answer bothered him more than he expected. By the time dinner ended, James had made a decision. He couldn't simply drop the girls off and forget about them. Not after everything he had heard. Outside, the snowfall had become heavier. James carried the blanket under one arm. While walking beside the sisters. The girls led him through older parts of town. The buildings became smaller. The streets quieter. Eventually they stopped in front of a worn apartment building. Paint peeled from the walls. Several windows were cracked. The place looked neglected. Lily pointed upward. "We live on the 3rd floor." James looked at the building. And at the girls. His concern deepened. The sisters hurried inside. But before entering, Sophie suddenly turned around. "Mister?" James looked down. "Yes?" The little girl smiled. "Mum will like you." Before he could respond, she disappeared inside. James stood alone in the falling snow. Staring at the building. His heart was beating faster now. After 7 years. After all this time, Evelyn was only a few floors away. Part of him wanted to leave. Part of him wanted to protect himself from whatever he might discover. But another part, the larger part, needed answers. Then something happened. A light turned on in a third-floor window. James looked up instinctively. A woman's silhouette appeared behind the curtain. She stood completely still, as if waiting for someone, as if listening. James couldn't see her face, couldn't know for certain. Yet somehow he knew it was Evelyn. For several long seconds, he stood frozen in the snow. The distance between them was only a few floors. Yet it felt like 7 years. 7 years of unanswered questions. 7 years of regret. 7 years of wondering what might have been, and now without warning. The past was standing directly in front of him. The only thing James didn't know was this. Would Evelyn be happy to see him? Or had he just reopened a wound that never truly healed? The answer was waiting upstairs. James stood outside the apartment, building for nearly a minute. Snow continued, falling around him. The cold barely registered anymore. His attention was fixed on the third-floor window. The silhouette behind the curtain hadn't moved. For a moment, he considered leaving. Maybe it would be better that way. Maybe some chapters of life were meant to stay closed. But before he could turn away, the building's front door opened. The 3 sisters rushed back outside. "Mr. Carter." James blinked. Lily smiled. "Mom wants to meet you." His heart immediately began racing. For 7 years, he had imagined what this moment might feel like. Now, it was actually happening. The girls led him inside. The building was old. The narrow hallways showed years of wear. Paint peeled from the walls. The staircase creaked beneath their footsteps. Yet, despite everything, the place felt cared for. Someone clearly tried their best to keep it clean. When they reached the 3rd floor, Lily stopped in front of a small apartment. She pushed the door open. "Mom?" A gentle voice answered from inside. "Come in." James froze. The voice hadn't changed. 7 years. And somehow he recognized it instantly. Slowly, he stepped inside. The apartment was tiny. A worn couch sat against one wall. A small dining table occupied the corner. The furniture was old. The decorations were simple, but the place felt warm. Loved. Lived in. Near the window sat woman. Her dark hair fell over her shoulders. Knitted blanket rested across her lap. Her eyes stared slightly past the room. Unfocused. James felt his chest tighten. She really was blind. For a moment, neither spoke, neither moved. 7 years of memories filled the silence. Finally, Evelyn smiled softly. "I wasn't sure it was really you." James swallowed hard. "It's me." The sound of his voice seemed to affect her immediately. Her smile faded slightly. As if hearing it brought back memories she had spent years trying to bury. The girls sensed the tension. For once, even they remained quiet. Evelyn slowly stood. "I never expected to see you again." "Neither did I." Another silence followed. James looked around the apartment. Then, back at Evelyn. "So it's true." Evelyn tilted her head. "What is?" "The blanket." A faint smile appeared on her face. "The silver bird?" James nodded. "You still use it?" Evelyn ran her fingers across the fabric in her lap. "It was always my favorite design." James remembered. Years ago she had sewn the same tiny bird onto everything she made. She once told him it represented hope. Reminder that difficult seasons never lasted forever. Back then, they were young. They believed life would always be simple. Life had other plans. The girls disappeared into their bedroom, sensing the adults needed privacy. For the first time, James and Evelyn were alone. The atmosphere immediately became heavier, more personal. Finally, James asked the question he had been carrying all evening. What happened to your eyes? Evelyn's smile disappeared. She looked toward the window, even though she couldn't see it, a degenerative condition. James listened carefully. The doctors discovered it years ago. Her voice remained calm, almost too calm. As time passed, my vision became worse. She paused. Eventually it disappeared. Completely. James felt a wave of sadness. Evelyn had always loved creating things. Drawing, sewing, painting. She once spent hours watching sunsets. And now she couldn't see any of it. I'm sorry. Evelyn laughed softly. You always say that. James looked down. She was right. 7 years ago, he had apologized too, for different reasons, but the result had been the same. Regret. After a long silence, Evelyn finally asked the question she had avoided since he arrived. Why are you here? James hesitated. Because the truth was complicated. Finally he answered honestly. I saw the girls selling your blanket. Evelyn lowered her head. For a moment, embarrassment crossed her face. They weren't supposed to be outside that long. They were trying to help. I know. Her voice trembled slightly. They always try to help. The sadness in her words broke something inside him. James looked around the apartment. Again. The worn furniture, the patched curtains. The tiny kitchen. Everything spoke of years of struggle, years he knew nothing about. Evelyn. She looked toward the sound of his voice. Why didn't you tell me? A sad smile appeared. Tell you what? Any of this? The apartment. The blindness, the children, the difficulties. All of it. Evelyn remained silent. Finally answered. Because your life moved on. James felt the words hit harder than he expected. I never stopped thinking about you. For a moment, the room became completely silent. Even the sounds from outside seemed to disappear. Evelyn looked down at her hands. As if she didn't know how to respond. The truth was, she had thought about him too, more times than she cared to admit. But life had become complicated. Painful. And survival often left little room for old memories. Then suddenly, a small voice interrupted the moment. Mom? The adults turned. Sophie stood in the doorway. Her expression looked worried. What's wrong? Evelyn asked. The little girl hesitated, then quietly said, The landlord came earlier. Evelyn immediately stiffened. What did he want? Sophie looked down. He left another letter. The room instantly fell silent. Evelyn's face lost color. Slowly, she reached for the envelope resting on the table. Her fingers trembled. James watched carefully. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Evelyn opened the letter. As she listened to Lily read it aloud. Her expression grew darker. Then paler. Finally, she lowered her head. James felt concern rising. What is it? For several seconds, she couldn't answer. Then she whispered, We have 30 days. James frowned. 30 days for what? A tear rolled down Evelyn's cheek. And when she finally spoke, Her voice barely rose above a whisper. 30 days before we lose the apartment. The room fell completely silent. The girls stood, frozen. Evelyn lowered her head. And for the first time since James had arrived, he saw fear in her face. Real fear. The kind that keeps parents awake at night. The kind that comes from not knowing how to protect the people you love. And in that moment, James realized something. Finding Evelyn again was only the beginning. Because now she was facing a battle she couldn't fight alone. The apartment felt unusually quiet after Sophie read the letter. 30 days. That was all Evelyn had left. 30 days before she and the girls would lose their home. James looked around the small apartment again. The worn furniture, the patched curtains, the handmade blankets folded neatly in the corner. Everything represented years of effort, years of sacrifice. And now it was all at risk. The three sisters stood silently near their mother. None of them fully understood finances. But they understood enough. They knew what it meant when adults talked about losing a home. Evelyn folded the letter and placed it carefully on the table. Then she forced a smile. A smile meant for the girls, not for herself. "We'll figure something out." The children nodded, but James could hear the uncertainty in her voice. After a few minutes, he stood up. "I should go." Evelyn nodded. "Thank you for dinner." James looked at her. Then at the girls. Then at the letter. He wanted to say something. To promise everything would be okay. But he wasn't sure he had the right. So instead he simply said, "Good night." The girls waved. "Good night, Mr. Carter." As James stepped outside into the cold night air, one thought refused to leave his mind. Evelyn was drowning. And she was trying desperately not to let anyone see it. The next morning, James arrived at his office earlier than usual, but he couldn't focus. Meetings felt unimportant. Emails felt meaningless. Every time he looked at a document, he saw Evelyn's face, and those three little girls standing in the snow. Finally, he made a phone call. Then another. And another. By the end of the day, he had learned something troubling. The apartment building had recently been sold. The new owner planned to renovate the property and increase rent. Many families were already being forced to leave. Evelyn wasn't the only one, but that didn't make it easier. A few days later, James visited the apartment again, this time carrying groceries. The girls were thrilled to see him. Sophie practically ran to the door. "Mum, Mr. Carter is here." Evelyn laughed softly. "You don't have to announce him every time." "Yes, I do." James smiled. For the first time in years, visiting someone felt more important than any business meeting. Over the following weeks, he became part of their lives. Not intentionally. It simply happened. He helped the girls with school projects. He fixed a broken kitchen cabinet. He carried groceries. He listened. And little by little, the apartment felt less lonely. One afternoon, while the girls were at school, James and Evelyn sat together in the living room. Snow had begun falling again. Outside. Evelyn was knitting. Or at least trying to. Her hands moved slowly across the yarn. James watched quietly. Finally he asked, "Have the doctors said anything new?" Evelyn paused. The knitting needles stopped moving. "No." The answer felt incomplete. James noticed. "Evelyn." She sighed. "There is a surgery." James immediately sat forward. "A surgery?" She nodded. Double quotes. "The doctors think it might help." "Might?" "The chances aren't guaranteed." James frowned. "Then why haven't you done it?" For several seconds, Evelyn remained silent. Then she smiled sadly. Because surgeries aren't free. The realization hit him instantly. She hadn't given up. She simply couldn't afford. Hope. James looked away, trying to hide his emotions. But inside, a decision had already been made. A week later, Evelyn received a phone call. The hospital informed her that funding had suddenly become available through a charitable medical foundation. Her surgery could be scheduled immediately. Evelyn sat frozen in disbelief. When she finally hung up, tears streamed down her face. She knew exactly who was responsible. That evening, James arrived carrying groceries. Before he could say a word, Evelyn stood. "You did this." James smiled. "I don't know what you're talking about, James." Neither spoke for a moment. Then Evelyn laughed through her tears. "You're impossible." For the first time in years, she allowed herself to believe things might actually improve. Several weeks later, the day of the surgery arrived. The girls sat nervously in the waiting room. James sat beside them. Hours passed. No one spoke much. Finally, a doctor appeared. Everyone stood immediately. The doctor smiled. The procedure went well. Relief swept through the room. The girls nearly burst into tears. James closed his eyes. For the first time all day, he could breathe again. Recovery took time. Weeks passed. Then one spring morning, Evelyn sat in a hospital chair as a nurse, carefully removed the protective coverings from her eyes. The room was completely silent. Slowly. Very slowly. Light returned. Shapes. Faces. Blurred, at first. Then clearer. And the first faces she saw were the three people she loved. Most. Lily. Chloe. Sophie. The girls immediately burst into tears. "Mum!" Evelyn cried too. She reached for them, holding all three as tightly as she could. Then she looked up. Across the room stood James. For a moment neither moved, neither spoke. After all these years, after everything that had happened, she could finally see him again, and somehow he looked exactly as she remembered. Only older. Wiser. Kinder. Months later, life looked very different. Evelyn's eyesight continued improving. The girls were thriving in school, and thanks to a housing assistance program, they no longer had to worry about losing their apartment. One evening, the family gathered in the town square, the same square where everything had begun. Christmas lights once again illuminated the streets. Snow drifted gently through the air. The girls laughed as they ran around the giant Christmas tree. Evelyn stood beside James watching them. For a while neither spoke. Then Evelyn smiled. "Funny." "What is?" "A year ago those girls were trying to sell a blanket." James laughed softly. "And now?" She looked toward the children. "Now they won't stop talking." They both laughed. Then Evelyn turned toward him, her eyes filled with gratitude. "You changed our lives." James shook his head. "No." He looked at the three sisters. "They changed mine." As Christmas music filled the square, the girls ran back toward them. The four embraced beneath the glowing lights. Family brought together not by money, not by luck, but by kindness. Because sometimes the smallest act of compassion can change the course of an entire life. And sometimes. It begins with three little girls standing in the snow, trying to sell their blind mother's handmade blanket. The end.